The moment cancer became real for me wasn't when somebody said the word. It wasn't when I got diagnosed, and it wasn't when I saw the scan result. It happened before anybody said anything at all. The moment I walked into the room, I already knew. And the strange thing is, the part I remember most from that entire period isn't the diagnosis. It's a conversation about FIFA. I'll explain. If you're new here, my name's Dan. In 2019, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. In the last episode, I talked about the tests, the referrals, the waiting, the uncertainty. That feeling that something serious might be happening without anybody actually confirming it. This episode is about the day the waiting ended. The day I finally got answers. And the day everything became real. The appointment was at Kingsmill Hospital. By this point, we'd already been through weeks of tests, scans, referrals, appointments, conversations. I knew something wasn't right. You don't end up going through all that because everything's fine. But even then, there was still a part of me that was holding on to some form of hope. Still looking for another explanation. Still trying to convince myself there'd be some other answer. Something fixable. Something manageable. Something. Anything that wasn't cancer. My wife came with me. We walked into the room together, and my consultant was already there. And sat beside him were the Macmillan nurses. Now, if you've been through cancer treatment, you know exactly what that means. They don't just sit in those appointments for fun. They don't pop in for a quick chat or a little cuppa. They're there for a reason. And I remember looking around the room, looking at the consultant, looking at the nurses, looking at my wife, and before anybody said anything, I already knew. And I remember saying, "So, cancer then?" And honestly, the Macmillan nurses were a bit of a spoiler. Nobody confirmed it, nobody had actually said the words yet, but I already knew. And weirdly, I don't remember feeling shocked. It wasn't a bolt from the blue. It felt more like confirmation. The thing I've been trying not to think about finally had a name. There's one thing I remember saying that day, and 6 years later, it still sits with me. And I said this: if anyone's going to have to go through this, I'm glad it's me. And I know that probably sounds strange, but what I meant was simple. I'd rather it be me than my wife. I'd rather it be me than one of my children. I'd rather it be me than my parents or my siblings. I'd rather carry it than what somebody I love carry it. I also remember saying, I'm strong enough to get through it. Now, was that confidence? Stubbornness? Blind optimism? Probably a mixture of all three, but I needed something to hold on to. Because when somebody tells you you've got cancer, your brain immediately starts trying to find solid ground. And for me, that became my solid ground. Not that it would be easy, not that it would be fair, just that somehow I'd find a way through it. Now I remember immediately after that appointment I rang my mum, and then I rang my dad, and those are difficult phone calls to make, because you're trying to explain something to other people that you haven't fully processed yourself. You don't suddenly become wise. You don't suddenly have all the answers. I don't have all the answers now. and you don't suddenly know what's going to happen. You're still trying to work it all out. And I remember hanging up the phone and thinking, well, what happens now? Because everything suddenly moves very quickly. 1 minute you're wondering what the problem is, the next minute people are talking about surgery, treatment, recovery, outcomes, the future. Life changes direction very quickly. If I'm being honest though, the diagnosis isn't the part that stayed with me. So the part I remember most was the night before surgery, because that was the first time I was truly alone with it. My wife dropped me off at the hospital on Sunday evening, and then she went home. I remember sitting on the wards thinking, well, this is it then. Not in a dramatic way, not full of emotion. I was emotional, but it wasn't all emotion. It was more matter of fact, because there wasn't anything left to do. The scans were done, the decisions had been made, the operation was happening. I signed off on it. Tomorrow morning they were going to put me to sleep for an 18-hour operation, and all I could do was wait. Nobody prepares you for that part, the waiting. Everyone talks about the diagnosis, everyone talks about treatment, but nobody talks about sitting in a hospital bed knowing exactly what's coming, and having absolutely no control over it. I tried staying awake watching WWE on my tablet, not because wrestling suddenly became the most important thing in my life, but because sleep meant tomorrow would be here sooner, and tomorrow meant surgery. I remember crying a few times. I remember going outside for a vape with one of the mental health nurses. I remember trying to distract myself, watching the show, scrolling on my tablet, thinking about random things, then finding myself right back where I started. And here's the strange thing. I wasn't lying there thinking about cancer. Not really. I wasn't thinking about statistics. I wasn't thinking about percentages. I wasn't thinking about survival rates. The thought that kept coming back was much simpler. What if I don't wake up? That was the fear. Not the surgery, not the hospital, not even the cancer. The fear was that tomorrow morning I'd go to sleep, and that would be it. Because once they put you under, everything's out of your hands. You trust a room full of people you've only known for a matter of hours, if not days, and you hope you open your eyes again afterwards. It's a difficult thing to sit with, especially at 2 o'clock in the morning, staring at the ceiling, listening to the walls around you, waiting for morning. And then morning arrived, like it always does, ready or not. And one of the things that makes me smile now is the last conversation I remember having before surgery. It wasn't about cancer, it wasn't about life or fear. I was putting my compression socks on and I was talking to the porter and we were discussing FIFA. That's it, FIFA. Looking back, it's ridiculous. My last conversation that I had with my voice was about a football game. And then the next minute you've been wheeled towards an operation that's going to change your life forever. But that's how life works. It carries on being normal right up until the moment that it's not. Looking back now, I think that was the last day of my old life. I just didn't know it yet. I thought I was about to have surgery. What I didn't realise was that I was about to become a very different version of myself. Different voice, different body, a different norm, and a different understanding of what really matters. The strange thing is, surviving the surgery wasn't the end of the difficult part. In many ways, it was the beginning. Because after the operation, I discovered a kind of loneliness that I'd never experienced before. The kind that exists even when people are standing right beside you. And that's what we're talking about in the next episode. The loneliest moments of cancer. I'll see you then.